Welcome to Ready Lesson 1, Analyzing the Development of Central Ideas. In this lesson, we are going to determine two or more stated or implied central ideas of an informational text, and we are going to analyze how facts, details, and other evidence develop a central idea. Now, I want you to think about what you've learned about analyzing key details to determine the central idea of a text. First, remember what a central idea is. A central idea tells what a whole paragraph or section is mainly about. Next, think about what are details? Details are facts, evidence, and other information that support the central idea. So we're going to be learning more about how authors use details to develop central ideas. Now remember, authors don't always state the central idea directly. So you need to figure out what the central idea is if it is not stated directly. In order to do this, you need to pay attention to supporting details and ask yourself what those details tell more about. So listen to the following text. To be an emergency medical technician, you must keep your head in emergencies. You will be trained to check people for signs of injury and to perform certain procedures. Then you must decide if advanced medical care is necessary and transport people to hospitals. Now, if I were to try to figure out what the central idea of this paragraph would be, I would have to look at the supporting details. Now, in this case, I could probably assume that the central idea is to become an emergency medical technician. It takes medical training and the ability to stay calm in emergencies. Now, remember that supporting details are clues to help you determine what a stated or unstated central idea of the text is. And identifying central ideas can actually help you understand the points that an author is trying to make. So now let's look at lesson 1. It says, as you read, do you wonder what the author is trying to tell you in the text? To try to figure out the central idea or the most important point or points an author is trying to make about the topic. Sometimes a central idea may be stated directly, but more often it is implied. Then you must figure it out by analyzing the supporting details. These facts, examples, reasons, and other pieces of information are meant to explain and expand on the central idea. So it says, examine the cartoon below. Think about the central idea and its supporting details. So looking at the cartoon, I can see a paleontologist or a scientist who's studying fossils, and he looks like he's brushing up or digging up some sort of dinosaur fossil. And in the bottom right-hand corner, it says text that says, paleontologists search for fossils that reveal more about creatures that lived in the past. So let's look at the question. It says, what central idea is shown? Circle parts of the picture and caption that support the central idea. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look back at what I can circle. So I'm going to my circle tool up here, and I can see that I can circle first and foremost the paleontologist as he is brushing these fossils. And I can also see that in the text here it says it discusses creatures that lived in the past. So these are clues that are going to help me understand what the central idea is here. Now let's go down to the web. It says study the web below that shows the central idea of the picture and the details that support it. So the central idea is that paleontologists help us learn about dinosaurs and our past. And the supporting detail is that the dinosaur bones show the shape of creatures from the past, and studying fossils reveals clues about creatures that lived in the past. And so if you notice, those are the two things that we circled up here. As a good reader, make sure you figure out how the supporting details work together to develop the central idea in the text. This will help you understand each important point the author wants to make. Now let's look at part 2, modeled instruction. It says, read the first 2 paragraphs of an account about deep sea divers. Deep Sea Treasure Hunters by Ramona Rivera. Deep sea diving is a dangerous but fascinating activity. Some people dive for fun or sport, and some make a career out of hunting for sunken treasure. These types of career divers fall into one of two categories: those who want to study their discoveries and those who want to sell the treasures they find. The divers who study sunken treasures are concerned with preservation of the sites. These divers often locate, map, and study shipwrecks. When they find a site, the divers are interested in using the information that the treasure provides to form a story about the ship that wrecked. By studying artifacts such as coins or jewelry found at a site, these divers learn many things about the lives of the ship's passengers. They also learn more about the cargo and the daily lives of the sailors aboard the ship. Sometimes they even learn why the ship sank. So it says, explore how to answer these questions. What is the central idea of paragraph 2? What details are given to support it? Now, I notice in the first paragraph that the author is going to be discussing two career paths: the deep sea treasure diving for money and the deep sea treasure diving for gathering information. So I have to figure out which career path is described in paragraph 2 and do the details help me learn more from it. So the author doesn't directly tell the central idea of the paragraph. So I'll need to determine the central idea by thinking about what all the supporting details have in common. So again, paragraph 1 named two types of career divers, and so I need to figure out what type of career diving this paragraph is discussing. Now, paragraph 2 begins by discussing divers who study sunken treasure. This paragraph tells more about that specific type of diver. Now, what important idea do I learn about this type of deep sea diver? Well, in the second sentence, if I go up, it says that they often locate, map, and study shipwrecks. This detail tells me what these divers do. The text also says they learn many things about the lives of the ship's passengers. This is also a supporting detail, and it tells me why these types of divers go deep sea diving. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling out the chart. So the goal of some of these deep sea divers is I'm going to click on my little typing tool, and don't forget that you need to fill this out in yours as well. So the goal is to gather important information from sunken treasure. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. So gather important information on sunken treasure. And I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that my text is a different color so it stands out. And so now the first supporting detail we said was that the divers study artifacts like jewels and coins. So I'm going to need to put in a second supporting detail. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that they often locate, map, and study shipwrecks. So let me go ahead and type that in. So the divers often locate, map, and study shipwrecks. Now, remember, finding the central idea is going to be supported by supporting details. So in this case, I had two supporting details. I actually had more than that were supporting the central idea. Now, my supporting details in this case are pretty similar because they're all supporting the same central idea. So now let's go ahead and let's move on to the next part of this. So this is continuing the same passage. It says, continue reading about deep sea treasure hunters. Use a closed reading in the hint to help you answer the question. So before I read, I'm going to look at the closed reading. It says the author mentions two central ideas in these paragraphs. Circle the first central idea and underline the second central idea. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be keeping an eye out for those two central ideas as I read. So it says the deep sea divers pursuing profit must carefully research their sites to make sure it is legal to take artifacts from the location. They must also take measures to preserve the artifacts so that they don't corrode and lose value once they are recovered. For these deep sea divers, the measure of their success is the dollar value of the treasure they find. Whether deep sea divers wish to study treasure or collect it, divers must obey the laws, dive in teams, and be careful at all times. We must respect the power and mystery of our oceans if we hope to uncover their many hidden treasures. So let's look for those central ideas. So the first one I needed to circle. So I'm going to go ahead and select my circle tool. And I'm going to look for this central idea. So I noticed that a lot of the details are supporting this first sentence here, that deep sea divers must pursuing profit must carefully research their sites